In this video, we will replace the shingles on the post office with the cedar siding from this image. But before we make this replacement, it's important to measure the original post office image and get a sense of how many pixels we need from our replacement texture. To do this, use the ruler tool here in the Post Office 3 file and drag out a measurement across the entire width of this part of the building. On the options bar, you can see up here that the width is almost 500 pixels. Judging from the image in cedar siding, this would be less than half of the width of the building. So let's say that we want the texture to fill up about this much space. That would be about 200 pixels, more or less. I'll click Clear up here to get rid of that particular measurement. Let's go back to cedar siding and resize the image to 200 pixels square. Choose Image, Image Size, set pixels as the unit, and type in 200. You can choose a resampling method. I'm going to use bicubic sharper because it's best for reduction. Click OK, and then zoom in to 100%, and you can see the image there. If we want, we can enhance this a little bit, perhaps by sharpening the image. But before we do that, let's actually get rid of these effects. Right-click on the layer and say Rasterize Layer Style so that it's just a simple layer. And then we can go ahead and sharpen this with Smart Sharpen so it stands out a little more. I'll use the maximum amount. Okay, that looks a little better. Then select All and Edit Copy. So now this is on the clipboard. Go back to Post Office 3. Make sure siding is the layer that is selected, and choose Filter, Vanishing Point. Then press Command V on the Mac or Control V on the PC, and you'll see the texture appear up here in the upper left-hand corner. Position the cursor inside this texture and drag it. When you approach this grid, watch what happens. It snaps onto the perspective grid. Drag it over here so that it's in the corner. Now I want to make a copy of this, so I'm going to hold down the Command key on the Mac or Control key on the PC, and you see the cursor change to this symbol that has two arrows. Drag, and while I'm dragging I can let go of the keys, and then press the Shift key. This will constrain the movement horizontally. I'll let it go right here. I'm going to repeat this process by pressing Command or Control, dragging, letting go of that key, and then pressing Shift. And I can wrap this texture around the corner. And I'm just going to keep doing this until I completely cover the grid. When I come over here, I'm going to copy this down, and I'm going to take some care to try to line up the seam here like that so that this element is more or less continuous. And then I'll go ahead and copy this over again and again until I fill up the entire grid on both sides. And then click OK. So the texture appears here because it is being masked with the layer mask and the vector mask. We could make some changes to that perhaps. We can target the layer mask up here and use the paintbrush with white as the color. And I could paint up here a little bit to add some of that in. We still have additional things to do to make this look more believable, but at least now we have a replacement texture correctly in place with respect for the perspective which is a part of this image. So in this video, you learned everything that is necessary to replace a texture in perspective using vanishing point.